What is the origin of evil? Some say that God doesn't know evil because they can't explain why a God who is good allows robberies, murders, disease, poverty, and other terrible happenings that are going on constantly on this earth. These misfortunes are certainly evil to us, but are they evil to God? If they are, why would God permit such evil? And if the evil did not come from Him who is the supreme creator of all things, where did it come from? Who created greed? Who created hate? Who created jealousy and anger? Who created harmful bacteria? Who created sex temptation, and the temptation of greed? These were not the invention of human beings. Man could never have experienced them if they had not first been created. Some people try to explain that evil does not exist, or that it is merely a psychological factor. But this is not so. The evidence of evil is here in the world. You cannot deny it. If there is no evil, why would Jesus pray, "Lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil"? He is saying plainly that evil does exist. So the truth is, we do find evil in the world. And where did it come from? God. Evil provides the contrast that enables us to recognize and experience goodness. Evil had to be, if there was to be any creation. If you wrote a message with white chalk on a whiteboard, none would see it. So without the blackboard of evil, the good things in the world could not be magnified at all. For instance, Judas was Jesus' best publicity agent. By his evil act, Judas made Christ eternally famous. Jesus knew the role he had to play, and all that was going to happen to him in order that he might demonstrate the love and greatness of God, and a villain was necessary to this enactment. But it was not good for Judas that he chose Tob, the one whose dark deed, by contrast, extolled the glories of Christ's triumph over evil. I am the Lord, and there is none else. I form the light and create darkness, I make peace, and create evil, I the Lord do all these things. Isaiah, chapter 45. Verse 6-7. Where is the dividing line between good and evil? It is hard to know where the dividing line is between good and evil. Certainly it is terrible that bacteria kill 2 billion people every 100 years. But think of the chaos of overpopulation if there were no death. And if everything here were good and perfect, no one would leave this earth of his own accord, none would want to go back to God. So in a sense misery is your best friend because it starts you seeking God. When you begin to see clearly the imperfection of the world, you will begin to seek the perfection of God. The truth is that God is using evil, not to destroy us, but to make us disillusioned with His toys, with the playthings of this world, so that we might seek Him. This is why the Lord Himself permits injustices and evil. But I have said to Him, Lord, you have never suffered. You have always been perfect. How do you know what suffering is? Yet you have put us through these tests, and you had no business doing it. We didn't ask to be born as mortals and to suffer. He doesn't mind that I argue with Him. He is very patient. The Lord answers, you don't have to go on suffering. I have given everyone free will to choose good instead of evil, and thus come back to me. So evil is the test of God to see if we will choose Him or His gifts. He created us in His image and gave us the power to free ourselves. But we don't use that power. There is another angle about duality, or good and evil, that I want to explain to you. If a movie producer made motion pictures only of angels, and showed them in the film house in morning, noon, and night every day, he would soon have to close up his business. He has to produce variety in order to attract people's attention. The bad man makes the hero look so much better. And we like plots that are filled with action. We don't mind looking at exciting movies about danger and disaster. Because we know they are only pictures. I remember one time when I was taken to see a movie in which the hero died. It was such a tragedy. So I stayed and watched the next showing of the picture until I saw the hero live again, then I left the theater. If you could see what is going on behind the screen of this life, you wouldn't suffer at all. It is a cosmic motion picture show. That God is projecting on the screen of this earth has no value to me. I look at the beam of God's light, which is projecting these scenes on the screen of life. I see the pictures of the whole universe coming from this beam. Another time I was sitting in a movie house watching an exciting drama on the screen. And then I looked into the projection booth. I saw that the projectionist was not interested in the picture, because he had seen it over and over again. Instead, he was reading a book. The projection machine was doing its job, there was the sound, and the beam of light was casting the realistic pictures on the screen. And there was the audience, caught up in the drama. I thought, Lord, you are like this man sitting here in the booth, absorbed in your own nature of bliss and love and wisdom. Your machine of cosmic law is throwing on the screen of the universe the scenes of jealousy, of love, of hatred, of wisdom, but you remain involved in your plays. From age to age, from civilization to civilization, the same old pictures are shown over and over again, only with different characters playing the parts. I think God gets a little bit bored with it all. He's tired of it. It is a wonder that he doesn't just pull the plug and stop the show. When I took my gaze from the beam of light that was casting the scenes of action on the screen, I looked at the audience in the motion picture house and I saw that they were going through all the emotions of the actors in the movie. They were suffering with the hero and reacting to the evil of the villain. To the audience it was a tragic experience. To the operator in the projection booth, it was only a picture. And so it is with God. He has created pictures of light and shadows, the hero and the villain, good and evil, and we are the audience and the actors. It is only because we are too much identified with the play that we are in trouble. Without shadows as well as light there could be no picture. Evil is the shadow that converts the one beam of God's light into pictures or forms. Therefore, evil is the shadow of God that makes this play possible. The dark shadows of evil are interspersed with the pure white beam of the virtues of God. He wants you not to take these pictures so seriously. The director of a movie sees the murders and the suffering and the comedy and the drama as means to create interest for the audience. He stands apart from the play and directs and observes it. God wants us to behave with detachment, realizing we're only actors or observers in his cosmic show. Though God has everything, we can still say that he has some desire. He wants to see who will remain unintimidated by this picture, and who will play his part well and come back to him. You can't run away from this universe, but if you act in this play with your thought fixed on God, you will be free. For him who realizes God, there is no evil. The way to supreme happiness will not be found by the scientist nor by material-minded people, but by those who follow the masters who say, go back to the booth of the infinite from which you can see the projection of all these cosmic motion pictures. Then you won't be troubled about God's creation, God's play. My only interest in people is to help them. And as long as breath shall flow in these lungs, so long shall I try to help others and tell them to get away from this motion picture of delusion. Because you are a part of it now, you suffer. You must stand aside and watch it, and then you cannot suffer. When you are an observer, then you can enjoy this play. This is what you must learn. To God, this is only a movie, and when you turn to him, it will also be a picture show to you. I will tell you a little story. A king fell asleep and dreamed that he was poor. He was crying out in his sleep for just a penny for some food. Finally, the queen woke him and said, "What is the matter with you? Your treasury is full of gold, and yet you are crying for a penny." Then the king said, "Oh, how silly of me. I thought I was a beggar and was starving for lack of that penny. Such is the delusion of every soul who is dreaming he is immortal, subject to the nightmarish evils of all kinds of disease, suffering, troubles, heartbreaks. The only way to escape this nightmare is by becoming more attached to God and less attached to the dream images of this world. It is because you have put your attention on the wrong things that you suffer. If you give your heart to man, or drink, or greed, or drugs, you will suffer. Your heart will be broken. You must place your heart with God. The more you seek peace in Him, the more that peace will devour your worries and sufferings. You suffer because you have allowed yourself to become so susceptible to the evils of this world. You must learn to be spiritually tough, spiritually strong. Do all the things you have do, and enjoy what you do, but inwardly say, Lord, I am thy child, made in thine image. I don't want anything but you. The devotee who follows this principle, and attains this realization, will find that for him there is no evil in this world. No cruelty exists in God's plan, because in His eyes there is no good or evil, only pictures of light and shadows. The Lord intended us to view the dualistic scenes of life as He does Himself, the ever-joyous witness of stupendous cosmic drama. Man has falsely identified himself with pseudo-solar ego. When he transfers his sense of identity to his true being, the immortal soul, he discovers that all pain is unreal. He no longer can even imagine the state of suffering.